Chapter 29 The Yearling by Marjorie Kennan Rawlings. In February, Penny became badly crippled for a time with his rheumatism. It had bothered him for several years in cold or wet weather. He was careless always about exposure, doing whatever he wished to do, or what seemed necessary, regardless of the weather, and unsparing of himself. It was as good a time as any, Ma Baxter said, for him to be laid up. But he was uneasy, for fear he would not be ready for his spring planting. "Then let Jody do it," she said impatiently. "He's never done nothing but follow me at it. There's so many things a boy can do wrong at such a work as that." "Yes, and whose fault is it that he don't know more about it? You spared him too long. When you was nearly 13, wasn't you plowing like a man?" "Yes, and that's just why I don't crave for him to do it till he's got his growth and his strength." "Oh, butter-hearted," she muttered. "Plowing never hurt anybody." She pounded pokeroot and boiled it and made poultices for him and made him a tonic of prickly ash and pokeroot and potassium. He accepted her ministrations gratefully, but was no better. He went back to his panther oil and rubbed his knees patiently with it, an hour at a time, and said it helped him more than the other remedies. While his father was idle, Jody did the light chores and kept up with the wood. He had an incentive to hurry at his work, for when he was done, he was free to wander away with Flag. Penny even permitted him to take the shotgun with him. He missed his father's company, yet he liked to hunt alone. He and Flag were free together. They liked best going to the sinkhole. They had stumbled on a game there one day when Flag had gone with him when he went to fetch drinking water. The game was a mad one of tag, up and down the steep slopes of the great green bowl. Flag was unbeatable at it, for he was up and down one side half a dozen times, while Jody was making one climb to the top. Finding that he could not be caught, he alternated between a teasing business of wearing Jody out and a more satisfying and ingratiating trick of deliberately allowing himself to be captured. On a warm sunny day in mid-February, Jody looked up from the bottom of the sinkhole. Flag stood in silhouette at the top. For a startled moment, it seemed to him that it was another deer. Flag was so big. He had not seen how fast he was growing. Many a young yearling shot for food was no bigger than he. He went home to Penny in excitement. Penny sat by the kitchen hearth, wrapped in quilts, though the day was mild. Jody burst out, "Pa, you reckon Flag's near about a yearling?" Penny looked at him quizzically. "I've been thinking about that myself lately. Give him a month more, I'd say he was a yearling." "How'll he be different?" "Well, he'll stay off in the woods longer. He'll grow a good bit bigger. He'll be betwixt and between. He'll be like a person standing on the state line. He'll be leaving one and turning t'other. Behind him's the fawn. Before him's the buck." Jody stared in vacancy. "Will he have horns?" "He'll not likely show no horns 'fore July. The bucks is shedding their horns right now. They'll be butt-headed for all through the spring. Then along in the summer, the spikes'll show, and by rutting season, they'll have full sets again." Jody examined Flag's head carefully. He felt the hard edge of his forehead. Ma Baxter passed by with a pan in her hand. "Hey, Ma, Flag'll soon be a yearling. Won't he be purty, Ma, with little old horns? Won't his horns be purty?" "He'd not look purty to me, did he have a crown on and angel's wings." He followed her to cajole her. She sat down to look over the dried cowpeas in the pan. He rubbed his nose over the down of her cheek. He liked the furry feel of it. "Ma, you smell like a roastin' ear in the sun." "Oh, get along. I've been mixing cornbread." "'Tain't that. Listen, Ma, you don't care do Flag have horns or no, do you?" "It'll be that much more to butt and bother." He did not press the point. Flag was in increasing disgrace at best. He had learned to slip free from the halter about his neck. When it was tightened so that he could not get out of it, he used the same tactics that a calf used against the restraint. He strained against it until his eyes bulged and his breathing choked, and to save his perverse life, it was necessary to release him. Then, when he was free, he raised havoc. There was no holding him in the shed. He would have razed it to the ground. He was wild and impudent. He was allowed in the house only when Jody was on hand to keep up with him, but the closed door seemed to make him possessed to enter. If it was not barred, he butted it open. He watched his chance and slipped in to cause some minor damage whenever Ma Baxter's back was turned. She set the dish of shell-dried peas on the table and went to the hearth. Jody went to his room to look for a piece of rawhide. There was a clatter and commotion, and then Ma Baxter's storm of fury. Flag had leaped onto the table, seized a mouthful of the peas, and sent the pan sprawling. The peas scattered from one end of the kitchen to the other. Jody came running. His mother threw the door open and drove Flag out with the broom. He seemed to enjoy the fracas. He kicked up his heel, flicked his white flag of a tail, shook his head as though threatening to attack with an imaginary antlers, sailed over the fence, and galloped away to the woods. Jody said, "That was my fault, Ma. I shouldn't have left him. He were hungry, Ma. The poor fella didn't get enough for breakfast. You should have beat me, Ma, not him." "I'll tear down all two of you. Now get down and pick up every one of them peas and wash 'em off." He was only too glad to do so. He crawled under the table and reached behind the kitchen safe and under the inside water shelf and in every corner to retrieve them. He washed them carefully and went to the sinkhole for extra water to replace what he had used and more. He felt entirely righteous. "Now see, Ma," he said, "there's no harm done. Every little harm Flag do, you can depend on me to take care of it." Flag did not return until sunset. Jody fed him outside and waited to smuggle him into his bedroom after Penny and Ma were in bed. Flag had lost his fawn's willingness to sleep long hours and had been increasingly restless at night. Ma Baxter had complained that she had heard him tripping about in Jody's room or the front room several times. Jody had invented a plausible tale of rats on the roof, but his mother was skeptical. Perhaps Flag had had a sleep that afternoon in the woods, for this night he left his moss pallet and pushed open the rickety door of Jody's bedroom, and wandered about the house. Jody was aroused by a piercing shriek from his mother. Flag had awakened her from a sound sleep by pushing his wet muzzle against her face. Jody slipped the fawn out by the front door before she could do a more thorough job of it. "Now that ends it," she raged. "The creature gives me no peace day or night. Now he can't come in this house no time. Never, no more. Penny kept apart from the controversy. Now he spoke from his bed. Your ma's right, boy. He's got too big and restless to be in the house. Jody went back to bed and lay wakeful, wondering if Flag were cold. He thought it was unreasonable of his mother to object to the clean, soft nose against her own. He could never get enough of fondling the delicate muzzle himself. She was a mean, hard woman, and did not care if he was lonely. His resentment eased him, and he went to sleep, clutching his pillow and pretending that he was Flag. The fawn snorted and stamped around the house most of the night. In the morning, Penny felt well enough to dress and hobble around the clearing, leaning on a stick. He made the rounds. He returned to the rear of the house. His face was grave. He called Jody to him. Flag had trampled back and forth across the tobacco seed bed. The young plants were almost ready to set out. He had destroyed nearly half of them. There would be enough for the usual patch for Penny's own use. There would be no money crop, as he had planned, for storekeeper Boyles at Fallujah. I don't figure Flag done it malicious, he said. He was just racing back and forth, and it was something to jump on, was all. Now you go set up stakes all through the bed amongst the plants, and all around the bed to keep him off and the rest of them. I should have done it for, I reckon, but I never studied on him romping in that particular place. Penny's reasonableness and kindness depressed Jody, as his mother's rage had not done. He turned away disconsolately to do the job. Penny said, Nah, it just been accidental like. We'll not say nothing to your ma. It'd be a poor time for her to know it. As Jody worked, he tried to think of a way to keep Flag out of mischief. Most of his tricks he considered only clever, but the destruction of the seed bed was serious. He was sure that such a thing would never happen again. And that's the end of chapter 29. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his peace.